Hey everyone, Brian Zane here with my review of AEW Dynamite for Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022. Folks, I am just about done recovering from my trip to Nashville this past weekend for SummerSlam / StarCast / Ric Flair's last match. It was a wild and woolly weekend, to be sure, and I had a lot of fun. I think the one thing I regret from that weekend was not having any of my crew with me. I was just going solo this time, but I had a great time at StarCast, getting to say hi to all the fans who stopped by on my table during Saturday and Sunday's convention, the people who were there for my interview with Saraya in her first post-WWE appearance. That was a lot of fun. Getting to experience Broadway a little bit, going to witness Ric Flair's last match. I actually went to the auditorium 2 days in a row, one for that show, and then the next morning to go to the Musicians Hall of Fame and Museum, which was pretty neat. So yeah, I got to experience a lot of Nashville and a very short amount of time. And I was very happy with it. I had a great time. Like I said, still recovering, but there will be a vlog coming out in the next week or two about my experience. I also do plan on reviewing Ric Flair's last match, The Show. And I will say right now, though, it was just really cool to witness that history. No, it was not the most beautiful match to watch, but I mean, the emotion was there, the feeling was there. Dare I say, a little bit of that magic was there from that opening of the show with Bob Caudle to the main event and everything, and just the moments afterward. Being amongst all the fans and witnessing that was something that I'm always going to remember. And I hope that Ric Flair has found the closure that he seems to have been chasing with this last match, But I will say that was fun, and now we're just diving in to business as usual. Dynamite was this week, so let's keep on rolling with the review. First thing I noticed is we don't get the "It's Wednesday night, you know what that means" catchphrase from commentary, which I think is the first time since after Brody Lee died that we have not heard that to open up the show. And so I think, is that a slip up, or is that going to be some kind of new thing from now on? I'm curious about that. Our opening match, though, sees Orange Cassidy taking on Jay Lethal, who was one part of Ric Flair's last match, by the way. Orange diving onto the outside and is chasing Jay up, who's kind of crawling away, chasing him up with the soft kicks. Satnam Singh shows up on stage with a distraction, but then we see the best friends, one on the other's shoulders with a trench coat to try and size up to Satnam, which was pretty amazing. Lethal is working over Orange's leg for the majority of this matchup, and during the break hits a bitchin' dragon screw when Orange is sitting on the top turnbuckle pad. Orange making a big comeback here. He almost wins by way of playing possum, but Jay's able to kick his leg out from under his leg and win by way of lethal injection. After the match, Sanjay Dutt hyping up Jay and asking him his thoughts about Wardlow, stemming from what happened with them in the six-man tag match last week on Rampage. Jay running Wardlow down, threatening to break Orange's legs with the figure four. Out come the best friends and Wardlow to make the save. Sanjay Dutt challenging Wardlow on behalf of Jay for the TNT Championship Battle of the Belts this Saturday. Wardlow grabs the mic, welcomes everyone to his world, and in so many words, accepts the challenge. So we got that happening this Saturday. This opening match, though, was pretty darn good. We get a brief recap of what happened with the FTW title last week on Dynamite. Then we see the Undisputed Elite in the ring. Adam Cole is back on TV after being gone for several weeks, and he's there with the Young Bucks and Red Dragon and Brandon Cutler. Cole talking about loyalty and how important that is no matter what. And he brings up the Trios Championship tournament, and he brings up to the Young Bucks, hey, I'm not cleared to wrestle, Kyle's not cleared to wrestle, so if you don't pick Bobby Fish as your third man, you're not going to be in the tournament, because we're going to beat you up. Oh, and so big betrayal. The Young Bucks and Brandon Cutler have been betrayed by Cole and Red Dragon, and they're getting beat up and everything. We get a crowd shot of a kid crying over this, which I was actually watching the show with my wife tonight, and she said, I don't like that. She just did not like to see that kid suffering from this huge heel turn by Cole and Red Dragon here. Hangman Page in his butterfly pants comes to make the save, chasing the baddies out, and we get him helping the Young Bucks up. We don't get a full-on reunion between the three guys here, but we see Page kind of leaving and letting them stand tall here. And they kind of mentioned maybe we'll get a Hung Bucks reunion at some point. That seems to be what we're building toward based on the last couple weeks of build. And if this is the way to kind of really cement Young Bucks as a babyface team again, get the band back together, I think that'd be really cool. I think it's something that the fans want to see. But as far as the heel turn goes, the betrayal we saw, I think that was also a cool move. Again, really establishing that the Young Bucks are doing their own thing now. We can have Cole and Red Dragon, the former Undisputed Era, basically, be the ones to kind of they'll be the heel group for a bit. And then once Kenny Omega eventually comes back, we will see or his allegiance ultimately lies. I think that could really set up for some very interesting matchups down the pike, no matter what side he ends up choosing. Jon Moxley cutting a promo in regards to the main event tonight, Jericho versus Wheeler Yuta, and whoever wins that match will face Moxley next week for the title. Moxley says he does not care which man wins and ultimately fights him next week because he's going to beat them up any night, anywhere, anybody, doesn't matter. In graphic detail, he explains how he wants to fight people and how much he loves it, and says this is his life. This is not a game. And I bet there are some people who are watching that who listened to those words and thought for whatever reason, ooh, shots fired at Triple H. Then afterward, we see a backstage bit from earlier in the day where Tony Schiavone is trying to interview Christian Cage. Then suddenly Jungle Boy just motors on in and almost hits the two of them with a danged car. My favorite part about that, though, is afterward you hear Schiavone talk about it on commentary going into the next intros. That's right. He tried to run down me. He tried to run down Christian Cage, which I understand. I love how to put that in there. That was great. In our next matchup, it's women's tag action as Dr. Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter, who apparently raided Cody Rhodes' closet and cut up one of his entrance robes and wore it as matching gear, apparently taking on the team of Thunderstorm. Speaking of fashion here, Thunder Rosa wearing a shirt that talks about her being a sandbagger in matches. Not sure why you'd want to own that and put it on a shirt, but to each their own, I guess. This is a good matchup here. Thunder taking the heat for a lot of this thing. Toni Storm with a very big hot tag. She goes on a big old run. Britt hits her avalanche air raid crash and the stomp, but Thunder is able to make the save and break up the pinfall here. Lots of big back and forth this part of the match. Really exciting stuff here. Toni hits a lot of the hip attacks in the corner. Thunder Rosa somehow gets caught in the crossfire though, so Toni ends up hitting her own partner. She gets hit with a short arm lariat by Jamie Hayter for her and Britt to win the match in kind of a shocking conclusion to an otherwise really good match. Really strong work by all four of these ladies. Don't think I saw any sandbagging in this one, but yeah, I think it was good and told a good story, and definitely seems to be maybe planting the seeds of doubt, I guess, between Thunder Rosa and Toni Storm. We'll have to see. There's a promo from Ty Conti and Sammy Guevara about their engagement and their pending wedding and everything in Paris. Then suddenly Eddie Kingston shows up on screen and just cuts off the proceedings and everything. He tells Sammy that he's owed a receipt, so when he's done with his wedding and everything, come back to the States and sign the contract for the match that he has challenged him to at All Out. So we'll be getting that match, assumedly, for the pay-per-view, which should be good. We get a recap of Powerhouse Hobbs' betrayal of Ricky Starks last week on Dynamite after the FTW title match and everything. And then we see Taz on the announce table saying how he had no idea any of that stuff that we saw last week was going to happen, from the follow-up match with Hook to Hobbs betraying Starks and everything. And basically he puts his sunglasses down and he gets in real serious mode, and he announces that now, because of all this, Team Taz is dead. It's done for, finito. So that's the end of that then. No trying to revive Team Taz, no switching up with new members. Taz as manager at this point seems to be gone away with at this point. Now, the managers were always never really at ringside anyway. They're always on commentary, so how much would you call it managing? I'm not entirely sure, but that seems to be the end of it. Team Taz no more. He wished them all the best in their futures. So yeah, we'll have to see what all these guys, Hook, Ricky Starks, and Will Hobbs and everything, how they will do being out of the Team Taz umbrella. Next match, these Powerhouse Hobbs taking on Ren Jones, and Hobbs just moidalizes the bum. He just slams him hither and yon, really destroys him quickly, and he tells Ricky Starks to watch this as he slams him down and beats him and puts a knee on the chest to pin him. Then after the match, though, Ricky Starks does make a run in, tries to get the jump on Hobbs, but Hobbs ends up being too strong, and he slams Starks down and leaves with his head held high. So definitely continuing to build Hobbs as somebody who Starks should not take lightly, who's still very strong and very capable of taking Starks out at any moment still. But the pop that Ricky got when he made his way down, I thought was huge. Like I said, the fans, they want to see this confrontation. I wouldn't be surprised if we get this at All Out, the way they're building toward it. But yeah, I gushed last week about how they have built Ricky Starks. He was getting cheered a lot for the last several months anyway, so it seemed inevitable he would turn face. But the way they're going about it here, I think, feels real, it feels earned, and I think the fans want to see Ricky get his revenge on Powerhouse, absolutely. We hear from Miro in regards to Malachi Black, and then we hear a promo from Darby in regards to Brody King in their coffin match they're going to have next week. And Darby is writing a tattoo in the palm of his own hand while he's doing it. This is the coffin drops on Brody King. Pretty intense stuff. Up next, Matt Hardy taking on Christian Cage, a 2-decade-old rivalry revisited here. Fun fact, I witnessed these two wrestle a singles match at a house show in Portland, Oregon in November of 2004, and there were actually a couple of spots from this match that I saw in that match from almost 20 years ago, namely the big turnbuckle spot where they go up and down the turnbuckle pads. That's kind of a Matt Hardy classic, but I think when he and Christian do it specifically, that's when they go up and down and do the whole tour. It's pretty hilarious. Christian kicks Hardy into the steel steps before we go to break, and he works him over during that time. Hardy makes a comeback, hits the side effect. He dives off the apron looking to hit Christian through a table, but Christian moves, so Hardy just goes to the table by himself. Christian hitting the kill switch to win the matchup here, and then afterward, we see him trying to set up the one-man concerto on Hardy, but then not-so-evil Luchasaurus makes his way to the ring to distract Christian Cage. Jungle Boy runs in from the other side and chases Christian out with a chair. Christian goes running. And so, yeah, again, more of that build between these guys. Christian showing he is deathly afraid of Jungle Boy after everything that happened. Jungle Boy's not even supposed to be here today, but he's already tried killing him with a car earlier in the day, then with the chair later on. So Jungle Boy is a jungle man possessed. We hear from Daniel Garcia backstage, who's gloating about the fact he beat Bryan Danielson last week. He calls himself the Dragon Slayer. And then we get a recap of Pac with yet another All-Atlantic Championship defense in the UK, working for Rev Pro. Then we see Ethan Page in the ring here. He's cutting a promo, but right as he starts, we see Stokely Hathaway make his way to the ring unannounced. And so Ethan's basically going, why is Ethan Page not on TV every week? Where's the Ethan Page action figures? And he blames the fans a lot for why Ethan doesn't get this love and get this coverage and everything. Because, when the Ethan Page shirt comes out, no one's lining around the block to get it and everything. So he's saying that when fans and AEW ignore him, they're leaving money on the table. Stokely shows up, he whispers in Ethan's ear, and he hands him his business card. He leaves, and then he gives him time for Ethan to leave the ring and catch up with him, so they walk up the ramp together. So what does this mean? We've seen Stokely recruiting more guys. We saw Lee Moriarty seem to go along with him. Now Ethan Page, what's he building here? And does this mean he is distancing himself from Jade Cargill and the baddies, or is he doing this on top of everything else? Is he building a giant conglomerate of wrestlers? That'd be really interesting, but I think anything Stokely touches turns to gold, so I can't wait to see what happens with that. Backstage, Shivani is with Angelo Parker, Matt Menard, and Anna Jay. I want to keep calling Parker and Menard 2.0 just for shorthand, but I don't think they're called that anymore, so I don't want to, use the old name and do them a disservice, basically. But they're asked their opinion about the Jericho Wheeler Yuta match for later on, and they say Jericho will become a 2-time AEW champion. Then Anna Jay asks, she's on the warpath again, threatening to choke out anyone who stands in her way. She ends up choking out a poor stagehand as the promo is ending. Then it's time for a dumpster match, shades of WrestleMania 14, as Austin and Colton Gunn take on the Acclaimed. Before the match begins, Billy Gunn is jumped by the Acclaimed, and he's a non-factor in this thing. That gives them time for Max Caster to cut his rap, where he says they'll make the Ass Boys retire like Vince McMahon. The Gunns powerbomb Anthony Bowens into the dumpster right away, and then they throw Caster in. They want to close the lids, but it's too soon, not over yet. We get weapons, Austin hitting the road dog punches and a little dance at one point during the commercial break. We have more brawling. They make their way up the stage, and we get Austin on top of the set, and Caster is following him behind, and he pushes him off, and he falls, plops right down into this dumpster that's on the stage. And then we've got Austin with Max Caster, with a big elbow drop off the set through the table onto Colton. They throw him in, they close the casket and win. And then shades of the Raw a week or two before Mania 14, you've got the Acclaimed struggling and then pushing the dumpster off the stage. And it looked kind of nasty the way it fell, the way it kind of flipped over. I think there was a lot of chance for further injury with that. But it was, again, shades of 1998. I'll tell you what, they did not sell it in 2022 the way they did in 98. I can still vividly remember JR yelling, "There's people in there, don't you do that!" And JR is there for this, and they're like, wow, you hate to see it, boy, boy, some people have all the luck, right? And that was pretty much it. Like, I felt that was my one nitpick with this match, was how badly they undersold that moment, because it's supposed to be, at one time, it was kind of like, oh my God, a career risker, so to speak. But here, pretty much swept under the rug. I will say the match itself, though, was fun. There's a promo for the Claudio Takeshita match, the ROH World title this Saturday at Battle of the Belts. And then we go to our main event, Chris Jericho versus Wheeler Yuta, where Jericho's title match with Jon Moxley next week is on the line. And so there's that conflict of interest potentially where Yuta could face his own stablemate in the Blackpool Combat Club if he wins. You've got Menard and Parker, 2.0, accompanying Jericho to the ring at first. Then Claudio Castagnoli shows up to even the odds. The match begins and Jericho slaps Yuta's face, and Yuta responds by flicking Jericho's injured nose. And I love Regal on commentary saying, oh yes, I've taught my boys to do that because it really hurts. You should try it at home. And then I did it, and he was right. It hurt. Aubrey Edwards ejects Parker and Menard, and we see Claudio follow them up the ramp to get them out of the picture as we go to break. Good back and forth in this matchup here. They're trading slaps at one point. Jericho is giving an awful lot to Yuta here, and I mean, it's a good thing too. He's really making Yuta look like $1 million, and it really has Jericho, looks to have him beat a couple of times here. Jericho gets walls of Jericho locked in, but Yuta grabs the ropes. Yuta goes on a big comeback, many dives. At one point he goes for the Regal stretch, but Jericho's able to fight out of that. He takes him to Dick Kick City, puts him in not the walls of Jericho, but the Lion Tamer with the added elevation to win the match by submission. He's keeping the hold on basically until Jon Moxley shows up to the crowd, chasing Jericho out, and then Jericho on the mic reminding people that we're going to get the Lionheart variant of Chris Jericho next week. And so he's going to stretch the shit out of Jon Moxley in that title match, Quake by the Lake, as we go off the air. I thought this was a great main event. It was one of those things where you kind of knew what the outcome was going to be. No way Jericho was going to lose this thing, and I don't think it was going to be a triple threat, but I still think he made Yuta look really good, and even in defeat, Yuta looked really strong and nothing to be ashamed of, losing the match the way he did. And yeah, I thought it was really strong and helped me build excitement for me, I should say, going into next week's title match. My grade for this week's Dynamite is a B+. I really enjoyed this episode. I thought they covered a lot of ground storyline-wise, and a lot of people got showcased, whether it was in longer matches or shorter promos. We saw a lot of faces on display, and I think that all the appearances we saw from people were notable and memorable. Nothing felt rushed. Nothing really felt like things were glossed over. Again, my one real nitpick is just how much they underplayed the severity of like the dumpster push off the stage here. But we did get some great moments, especially with Cole and Red Dragon turning on the Bucks. We saw a lot of fun matches. I think it was one of the strongest episodes of Dynamite you could have without a major championship match and or title change so far this year, honestly. But what did you think about Dynamite this week, folks, and all the big twists and turns we saw therein? I want to hear about it in the comments section below. Just a reminder, do stay tuned for the weeks to come on this channel, where I'll have my Nashville vlog and my review of Ric Flair's last match at some point in the next couple of weeks, but still catching up on some other work here. But until then, folks, I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.